It's Thursday. You know what that means. It's time for your Big Gold Belt Wrestling podcast here on Big Gold Belt Media. Folks, we got stuff to get into. It's a breaking news day because news breaks when it wants to happen. Dijak is leaving WWE. We're going to get into that and where his future may take him. We got Forbidden Door weekend coming up. We got to touch on that. We got a very interesting interview between Bo Dallas or Taylor Rotunda, however you want to put it, and Uncle Howdy. Very interesting that we're going to talk about later. And Jacob Fatu debuts, all that and more. Buckle in, folks. Your Big Gold Belt Wrestling podcast starts right now.
Big Gold Belt, 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 Big Gold Belt. All I really want, that Big Gold Belt, 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 Big Gold Belt. All I really need, that Big Gold Belt.
Hello, and thanks for being here with us tonight. It's your Big Gold Belt Wrestling podcast. I am Will. To the left of me, you got Silly Celis, and to the right of me, you got the Giant Crab Jamal.
Yep.
We got a packed show to get into tonight. There is going to be a lot going on as we are going into the summer is here. It is hot, and news is happening. Things are happening, so it's going to be a busy night tonight because stuff is going down. Gentlemen, how y'all doing before we get into things?
Ready for the 4th.
I feel that next week. Yes, I do not think we will be here next week on next Thursday night. Since we usually do Thursday nights, we'll probably be going on Wednesday next week. We'll be figuring it out during the course of the week. But yes, 4th of July, next Thursday night. So 1 week from now, we'll be getting ready for some fireworks to have. All kinds of stuff like that.
Just want to give a shout out to Roman Reigns and his family. Rest in peace to Sika. Definitely lost his father this week. So giving respects to the Samoan family or the dynasty of the Bloodline.
Absolutely. Passing a Sika this week, father of Roman Reigns, and of course Sika and Alpha, one of the most legendary tag teams in wrestling. A big week for the Samoan family in wrestling. So yeah, lots of stuff going on there. R.I.P. No, nothing more needs to be said about that. Throw out some condolences there. So let's get into the news of the day. This morning we had a letter get posted out of nowhere from one Donovan Dijak. We're going to give him back his first name right away, since he is on his way out the door. Apparently, WWE is not renewing his contract. He's claiming there was not even negotiations going on.
Yeah, I have it in front of me if you want to read it.
Hey, let's hear some of it. Bring it up.
So it's a letter on Twitter that he posted with his glasses from his latest gimmick in the top right corner. It's on a letter that's marked today, June 27th, 2024, and it starts off, "Here's the truth, WWE never negotiated with me. We attempted to negotiate, and they stonewalled us. They never made me a single offer. They then informed me that they would not renew my contract at the 11th hour. 2 months ago, I was in one of the best matches in NXT history, had a top match of WrestleMania weekend. On that day, a top executive in WWE told me I was, quote, crushing it. I was slated to feud for the NXT title, but I got called up to Raw instead. I consistently outperformed everyone's expectations, especially throughout 2023 and early 2024. I've never complained about anything or was difficult to work with. I tirelessly pitched ideas to anyone who would listen as recently as the day before I was notified. I never once missed a booking and was injured one time in 7 years for 3 months. I am thankful, disappointed, but also excited. This has lit a fire under me to relentlessly prove myself to the world. All I ever wanted was a fair shot, and now I have the opportunity to go out and take it. That's enough talk now. It's time to do or die, Jack. My last day under a WWE contract is June 28th, 2024. So that will be tomorrow. Bookings and interviews at book.jack@gmail.com if you want to, have them come through for your promotion. Get ready to feast your fucking eyes, Donovan Dijak, end quote.
There we go. Lots of some strong words in there. Sounds like there's some possible frustration with the way things are handled. So I guess the big question is what, as I'm just saying that with the graphic down there, what's next for the big man? What's next for Donovan Dijak? Who wants to jump in here first?
Crab, you want to go first?
Yeah. So I think the question that I had reading this early this morning is that when I look back at Dijack's run in WWE, was it a bust? And he honestly kind of is leaving in a position similar to where he started. Not necessarily championship material, not necessarily, jobbing on the WWE TikTok show. He definitely could have been a bigger name with a decent push. But honestly, for the lemons that he got, he was able to make not necessarily a lemonade, but some kind of custard. So definitely not as good as we know that he could be. Obviously not as bad as he should have been. And I think that's kind of where he is now. And he's even said that, like, hey, I'll perform everyone's expectations. And he did. I mean, he was dealt a bad hand with that shit gimmick with Retribution.
Yeah.
And then moved on from that, reinvented himself in NXT, and then kind of came on. Donovan Dijak, as far as I'm concerned, unless I'm proven otherwise, I think he is a star. He is championship material. He is cut from the same cloth as a Keith Lee, as a Punishment Martinez, and he should absolutely be up there. And for whatever reason, he's not. So what is next for him? That's the question at the bottom of the screen if you're watching this. And I think he's going to do what he says he's going to do, and that's go back hungrier, take the world by storm again, and get back to that thing that got him into WWE in the first place. And I don't know where that is. I don't know if that's for one specific company. I don't know if Tony Khan just like at midnight Eastern call him, because I don't think he has to fit in anywhere. I think AEW singles division for men is bloated, overcrowded stuff. Even if he went there, where does he fit in? Chris Jericho's another Chris Jericho disciple? Like, no, he's better than that. TNA, no. Anything else that's not really. So, I definitely think he, especially with the WWE backing, he's not burned that bridge, but he's definitely made a name for it, and arguably has come out on the better side of WWE afterwards. So I think he runs the indies and just goes, hard, knowing that he has the backing of WWE, in that the audience, that exposure will kind of reinvigorate his run on the indies. So I could see it. Ricochet has definitely like laid the groundwork. Not that he invented it, but it definitely feels a lot like that, where it's just like underappreciated, undervalued. We see it, he sees it. Now that you have the opportunity to fly, let's see how high you can go. And I think, similarly to Ricochet, who's had a hell of a run on the indies, I can't wait to see what's next for him.
Jamal, it's hard for me to counter your point because you made a lot of great points. Like you, I don't think he's failed in any way. Yes, he has. Well, first, let me talk about the letter. The letter, he spoke a lot of truth in the letter. And I think that letter was very well written, where he did not bash WWE. He just spoke truth of saying, hey, I never got a chance having no negotiation. So I guess my contract is going to end. So let me see what I'm going to do next. But I'm still not giving up on myself. And I think Dijak is a great performer. I know we've had a huge affiliation with him because we've seen him a lot of times in the indies. We did our interviews with him. And I'm a fan of him. And I think he's a very good performer. But this is the part of WWE that is hard for some people to understand, even though we can magically book people where they should be. Because like you said, I think he can be a world-class contender, whether it's the NXT title, maybe it's the IC title, maybe it's the US title. But there's just not enough areas where people can get booked properly. And you have stories like this. You have stories like Ricochet, or even a Shinsuke Nakamura, who we haven't seen in a while, where they just don't get a chance to get that equity when it comes to being booked properly, even though they have so much talent. Now, the question that was asked, of course, where does he go next? I think he may do a appearance here or there in the Indies, but I think ultimately WWE is going to re-sign him. I think he's going to remain in NXT. It may not be tomorrow, but I think maybe give it about a month or so. Let's have a conversation with him, or as WWE brass, and let's see the value that you want to have in him. And maybe it's somebody that you can retool and repackage him to bring him back as a different character, similar to what you have done with Drew McIntyre. Now, I'm not trying to say Drew McIntyre was, terrible and then he became a world contender overnight, but it was some time away that had to happen to rebrand who he is, to find himself to be a better player. So I think WWE will resign him. I still think he'll be in NXT. Maybe in a couple of years he'll get that call up and get a mid-card run, but I don't think his time with WWE is over.
Okay, Celis, I got an idea here. I was thinking about this earlier today, and from what you two both just said, I'm liking this a little bit more now when I'm thinking about this here. So, in-ring, physical ability and all that, we know the guy can go. We know the guy is a hell of a wrestler.
Yeah.
Issue as far as WWE is, but they never found the gimmick that, clicked with him.
Yep.
Retribution, that was a mess in and of itself. The repurposing into like the thing with the deal with the sunglasses, like the vigilante thing they were going. To me, that was just, it felt too hokey. It felt like almost like a Halloween costume that was put on him, where it didn't have any like truth to it. It didn't, it didn't work for me. And so I think that's the main issue they have with him. He's a big damn dude. He's the kind of guy I absolutely like. So I think it's a matter of they haven't found the right, look for him, the right presentation for him. That's the missing X factor here. So what if Jamal was saying this ain't the place to go, but I'm kind of looking at this as the idea back in the day when they wouldn't know what to do with some people and they had their little affiliation with ECW. Sometimes they would send people down there like an Al Snow, goes down there, he gets the head gimmick, kind of repurposes himself down there, comes back, whole new wrestler, whole different. We have an affiliation with TNA now. So I'm thinking he goes to TNA, strap him up, make him the guy in TNA, and Lord knows they're just pretty much doing tapings. So there's still space to do other stuff. But like, I like the idea of Dijak goes to TNA, tries on some new stuff, reinvents himself. They run with him for a while as like a fresh new guy down there. And then since it's TNA, the portal's right there to reinsert him into NXT when the time's right. I think that is like the perfect scenario there where it's like you use TNA as like, okay, we're gonna send him over here so he won't be on our TV and use that as our chance to repurpose him. And then hey, maybe things work out really quick. Maybe by like the Royal Rumble, you have him show back up. The door is open. I like the idea of kind of like you have your satellite promotion over here. Like, we're gonna put you over here. You work on some stuff over the workshops and stuff, and then we'll keep an eye on it. And maybe we bring you back.
I want to like that. I really do want to like that. The problem that I have, the biggest problem that I have with that is TNA becomes the G League for WWE.
Well,
where they already have.
That is what it is.
Where they already have NXT.
Right.
The second problem that I have is that what could Dijak be? Because he ended his statement with "Feast Your Eyes," which was a return to his old gimmick. Going back to that thing that got him in WWE in the first place. We didn't see that person in WWE.
We did not.
We saw T-Bar. We saw, Dijak the Road Warrior Cop. We saw something other than that. So if they were to bring him back, then what? Now, granted, yes, the last time I saw Drew McIntyre in WWE, he was part of the 3-man band.
Right.
And now, he's gone. He's not necessarily reinvented himself, but he just presented himself in the way that he was presented in Scotland. That was the thing that brought him over. And finally, WWE said, oh, yeah, we like this guy. What else did you think you see before? So the question really kind of comes down to is, if the Dijak that they wanted wasn't the Dijak that they got, and he's going back to being the thing that got them there in the first place, why wouldn't history just repeat itself? And it's not necessarily that WWE, just doesn't want him. Like, it's like, nope, you got to go, non-compete clause. They could have cut a contract at any time. Get him out of here. We've seen what that looks like.
Yeah.
This was hey, there's really no space for you. We don't need you in NXT. You make too much for NXT because he's on a WWE contract. We don't need you on any of the main rosters. You can go. And that's kind of how it feels like to me. He tried to negotiate. They BS'd him around, and that's unfortunate, but business in America. I don't see him being something that they want when they wanted him the first time and pissed it away.
I get it. And I just to even counter that, I mean, it is a track record for WWE where we say, like, okay, we brought you in because we saw how you were in the indies, or maybe somewhere like ROH, and we brought you
Right.
here, and it just didn't work because we wanted to build you as something we think you should be. But sometimes when we let talent just naturally be themselves, it works out. Now, I know it's been a change of reigns of when he was hired, but he really was hired under, I guess, the Triple H era at NXT. So we really can't say, oh, this is a Vince pick where Vince tried to do this. No, because Triple H had this in his pocket, you know, of who he tried to build Dijak up to be. But sometimes we just, or not we, WWE just allows them to, you know, get ahead of themselves and try to think they're smarter than the character themselves and let them be their own. I mean, because when we think about it, Bray Wyatt went through this, Drew McIntyre went through this. We just talked about Dijak. In some ways, we can even say CM Punk went through this, where he had to reconfigure himself and just be who he was. So
Hell,
even with
who's
that,
the world champion right now? Cody Rhodes.
Cody Rhodes,
Biggest
same
example
thing.
of all.
Yeah, big example of all. But I just think, you know, this may be a time like what you saying, Jamal, like, you know, hey, we just don't need you right now because it's nothing for you. I get that. And that's maybe part of the business. But I think he is still valuable where WWE will see, like, okay, even if we let you go for a moment, and Will, I like your idea using that TNA, but I understand the G League counterpoint to that. But let's let you go for a couple of months or maybe a month, not even that long. And let's realize what our value is to see what we need to do to bring you back. I just don't think he's too far gone.
I don't think he's too far gone. And I don't think it's definitely the like, oh no, Dijak is going to be, you know, teaming up with Matt Riddle with the next bar mitzvah. Like, no, that's not it either. And those two guys are on a totally different path outside of WWE.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of like, I don't see it. Now, granted, when Cody left, Cody wasn't the guy that left and that came back. He's not Dashing. He's not Stardust. He is Cody goddamn Rhodes. He's a totally different guy. You know, but it feels kind of like Baron Corbin, for example. If Corbin were to leave and become this, you know, become a bigger star on the indies than he was for whatever reason, however it happens, and then they get him back and they go, oh shit, it's Baron Corbin again. Wait a minute. That's the same guy that you didn't like before. And you're having him go and do the same thing. And we've seen that happen. You know, Naomi came out and it was like, oh, you know, Trinity Fatu is a big deal. She's doing great work at TNA. And like, oh, Naomi's back. We're feeling the glow again. And I just don't have faith in WWE to kind of like, you know, allow that space for talent to reinvent themselves or present themselves in the pack. It would have to be Cody Rhodes, where you leave as a person, come back as a totally different person, and they're like, oh shit, okay, cool. Because honestly, McIntyre has kind of been that guy since he got to America. CM Punk has really been that guy since Ring of Honor. And who knows? And Dijack's going back to being that guy. So it'll be interesting to see if he makes it to WWE. But to your point about the TNA thing, it will be interesting to see whether or not that actually becomes a thing where the prohibited portal is a place where not necessarily talent exchange, but the ability for you know, the talent, especially in NXT, to hone their craft with a different set of tools, kind of like a boot camp.
Yeah.
Like they are TV ready, they are able to do a thing. TNA is trusted with certain talent in their product. And it would be interesting to see if the guys that want to be on the Florida circuit that are doing NXT level up, you know, before they progress, maybe they go to TNA as like a rehab assignment. You know, it's unfortunate, but this may be where TNA lies as like a feeder to WWE. Anyway, you know, what a strange time that we live in.
Let me ask this question as a counter. So, two-part question. Well, I'll start with you.
All right.
First question is, do you think if you take Dijack's age, 37, as you said, right? And if you take his age right now, one, do you think he's had a successful wrestling career? Two, if he's not done with WWE, what is his ceiling at this point?
God, those are both tough questions. I forget that he's like in his late 30s like that. So in some ways, God, it reminds me kind of Batista, where it's like he's a guy that came around later in his years to where in wrestling years, he's not that old because he hasn't been on the big stage for that long. But
Right.
his actual age is higher than you would think it would be.
Yep.
God, he's had a good run. I mean, he's had a good middle of the road run. Yeah, I mean, he was in WWE for God, how many years? He said like 7 or something between
Something
the
like that.
NXT
Was it
run
like
and
that?
because he got there before COVID, so
He did.
he's been there for a
Might have been
good
6 or
while.
7 years.
Yeah. So I mean, he had a good chunk of time there. Lord knows there's plenty of people we see that get deals there that are only there for a couple of years or a few years, and he was there for longer than that. So even if it wasn't like, always the most high profile thing, there was quite a good chunk of time there where he was collecting a check from Stanford. So
Now-
it is
now
what it is.
Let me ask you this though.
All right.
In that tweet that Dijak sends out,
Mhm.
he tags AEW and AEW, New Japan, TNA, Tommy Dreamer, and Tony Khan.
Tommy Dreamer's running TNA's booking right now, so that's what that's about.
Oh, okay. What the hell?
Yeah.
But he tags basically TNA, AEW, and New Japan.
Okay, so that's where he wants his word out, I guess.
Right.
Those 3.
So indirectly putting the feelers out there right now. This is the end of his contract.
Yeah.
So there's no non-compete, there's no none of that. How possible is it that he shows up on Collision on Saturday, the day before Forbidden Door?
Very possible.
It wouldn't be hard to do, I don't think.
Yeah,
even as a one-off, even
Right.
possibly.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a contract. We know.
Correct.
You've seen how AEW will bring people in for appearances. I mean, it wouldn't be unheard of.
Right. So that's the thing. I guess in general, how soon does he pop up on TV?
I mean,
My guess is I'm going to say not that soon, just because
agree.
we're going to talk about Forbidden Door in a bit. That show has a lot going on already, and I think it would just get lost in the shuffle. I don't think Donovan Dijack's the guy you push, you move heaven and earth for to get him on Forbidden Door immediately. I don't think you have to do that. I mean, they could easily have him on TV next week. I'll think about him on Dynamite or something. So I don't see that happening. But I mean, TNA's got stuff they're going to be taping in July. New Japan, I just don't know what's going on over there right now with that place to know if it'd be like you'd sooner go there. I mean, I keep going back to TNA just because for me, it seems like TNA is the place where they could use someone like him the most. I think that's where he has the most opportunity to where like he would be a key featured guy.
I would agree.
As opposed like you said from the beginning, you don't say AEW, he's getting lost in the shuffle. He's just another face there. New Japan, God, that'd be like going behind the paywall of honor in ROH. Just be like out of sight, out of mind. But maybe you go to Japan and reinvent yourself.
But I'm not mad at that. Him and Moose. I'm not mad at that.
Yeah, I mean TNA. It's like I would say, yeah, he comes in, you immediately put him Moose as like a top program. Boom, right out of the gate. Like that's where I think he would have the biggest spotlight as far as like being a featured person on the TV show, in my mind.
Yeah,
but what do you,
either way, I don't think he's going to be out of the spotlight for long. I do think he's a good enough talent that he will enhance someone's roster. I think it's just a question of what his bottom line is. Does he need TV money, or does he just want to work, the towns, work the shows, be the independent guy, and do that thing? Does he want to just do the indie road, or does he want to sign a new contract? With guaranteed money. I think that's really the question.
And that goes back to where his ceiling is right now. Like you said, that's a good way to put it. Is this just, hey, keeping my name consistent so I can be on these many shows? Or am I trying to reach for a title because my name recognition needs to be where it needs to be in the wrestling history books?
Yeah. I would say if he's going to go any higher, if he's going to raise his ceiling any higher than from where it is now, he's going to have to reinvent himself. He has to come up with something new. It can't just be feast your eyes again. There's plenty of big guys on the indies doing that kind of stuff now. The big guy who can move around the ring isn't the most unique thing in the world anymore.
Right.
So it's going to be that missing piece that we started this off with, where he's got to come up with some new kind of presentation for what Donovan Dijak is in 2024, in my mind, to change his ceiling.
Yeah, and I also think wherever he goes, let's assume that he just goes full time to another company. He has to have a better position on the roster. It can't just be, oh, big signing here. It's Dijak. He's going to go do a thing. Okay, cool. He has to be able to fit in and make a meaningful impact, no pun intended, in that roster.
Right.
And where that's how you build yourself as a name. Because if he has been in WWE 5, 6, 7 years, then there's a generation of folks that don't know his indie work,
Right.
because they've only seen him in NXT in as a part of Retribution, and don't really remember the old Ring of Honor stuff and the indie stuff. So yeah, I think it's definitely it'll be interesting to see what happens, especially since the immediacy of the event. We see people announce that they're trying to leave or will leave or have a 90-day non-compete or whatever. That's not the case. This is tomorrow.
Yeah.
And tomorrow being Friday, he could pop up on TV. I mean, I don't know if TNA has a live show tomorrow night, but he could absolutely pop on TV on Saturday or for Collision or on
Wouldn't take long.
Yeah, GCW has a show this weekend. He could pop up on Fight TV.
That's true.
Yeah.
Plenty of indies running. Plenty
Absolutely.
of indies running. All right. Speaking of indies, that's what we're going to do since we're kind of close to the middle of the show. We will break for halftime here. We will come back. We will hit the indies with the indie spotlight, and then we'll get into Forbidden Door, since that's going on this weekend. So that is the plan. Stay with us, folks. Your Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. We'll be back right after this.
A little birdie told me, everybody, that you may be interested in doing some sponsorship and advertising opportunities with us here at Big Gold Belt Media. You know what? You might as well, because we are the golden standard for all of your media needs. Why would you want to go anywhere else? Besides, all of your pre-roll ads, your mid-roll ads, as well as your on-air reads are going to be done by me, Damian G. Yeah, professional broadcaster, Damian G. We do all types of social media promotions. That means your podcast, your IG, your Facebook, your Twitter, and your business website all get shouted out on our network here at Big Gold Belt Media, where we cover wrestling, movies, comics, and more. And you can find out more information and make those inquiries, kids, because, limited time offer here at Big Gold Belt Group at gmail.com. Again, that is Big Gold Belt Group at gmail.com. Why would you want to go anywhere else? I wouldn't. Well, I work here, but I still wouldn't even if I didn't. So again, Big Gold Belt Media for all your sponsorship and advertising opportunities, your podcast, your IG, your Facebook, your Twitter, all of your social media platforms, as well as any business website you want us to promote on our show. Big Gold Belt Group at gmail.com, and let them know Damon G sent you.
All right, folks, when we come back from halftime, we always like to check out what's going on the indies. So here's Giant Crab with this week's Big Gold Belt Indie Spotlight.
Yep. And this week we're going up the road a little bit to Baltimore. It's Combat Zone Wrestling. They're coming to Baltimore. They're working in the city. It's July 6th. It's Charm City Chaos, and that's going to happen at the Power Plant. An interesting place for a wrestling show, but it's right in downtown Baltimore, right there on the harbor, right next to the aquarium. Power Plant Live, number 34 Marketplace. Doors open at 6. Bell times at 7. Leo Rush versus Griffin McCoy is the match that I want to see. Aaron Ash, the CZW World Champion, versus Deshaun Pratt. That's going to be a pretty damn good match as well. You're going to want to be in the building for that one. Power Plant, July 6th. So if you're up there for the 4th, you get your fireworks in, eat some crabs on the 5th, and then you got wrestling on July 6th, which is a Saturday. Doors open at 6. Bell times at 7. You can get your ticket to czwrestling.com. It's Charm City Chaos on the 6th for CZW Wrestling, and that's the Indie Spotlight for this week.
There we go. Lots of shows happening this summer. Lots of shows happening over the 4th of July weekend. So going to get busy as we get further into the summer here, which brings us to this weekend with the Forbidden Door opening again in on Long Island this week, right? That's
it's the MJF Homecoming pay-per-view.
That's right. Yes. They are running that again. So it's Forbidden Door this Sunday, live on the pay-per-view, as always, the way AEW does it. I think the first thing that just jumps out at me when I was thinking about this show happening maybe it's just me. I'm gonna throw this out to you guys to get your takes on this. Does it feel like the interest level in this show compared to years past just is not what it used to be?
Not at all. Not at all. Like literally, go ahead, Jamal.
Now, do you feel that way because AEW has been in a bit of a downturn in general?
I mean, I'm sure that doesn't help. You know?
Right.
That's what I'm putting. And
also, for that matter, I'd say the same can be said for New Japan, which is the other major partner in this. It's like it's two companies that both feel cold,
right,
and just not as relevant as they used to be. So
I've been looking at the ratings for AEW. Mm-hmm. They started off the month of June, 790,000 viewers, down to 681, down to 502, which is like a COVID level low.
Yeah,
and
last week was the lowest ever in their regular time slot.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I would say that's got to be a record if it wasn't.
Yeah.
But that's like a COVID level number. Yeah. And then, of course, you have they're back up to 680,000. You can make the excuses and say that something else is on TV or whatever. But the bottom line is that they haven't cracked 800,000 viewers since April 10th. They haven't cracked 900,000 viewers this year. And remember, it wasn't that far ago where we were talking about when is AEW going to consistently do 1 million? And they're on the up. And they're going to be approaching SmackDown numbers soon if they hit this trajectory. And even though SmackDown was on the decline for a bit until they picked it back up, we were talking about this is going to be a Friday Night War coming to. Oh, it's not. AEW is definitely down. Not necessarily down bad, but definitely down. New Japan also down. A lot of time, which is ironic because AEW kind of has been poaching them. So, and then there's the fact that the Forbidden Door isn't exactly forbidden. A lot of New Japan guys have come to AEW in general, so there's no mystique when they go over. Moxley is AEW New Japan champion for whichever belt he has, U.S. champion. I think he had it at some point. If he doesn't have it still,
IWGP,
right? Has been over there, so that's not necessarily a shocker for them. They kind of backed themselves into a corner with this Forbidden Door concept. As a baseball fan, it's like interleague. At first, it was you can only have this matchup in the World Series. And then it became you can only have this matchup once every 4 years. And then it became you can only have this matchup, maybe once a season, like 2 games here, 2 games there, once a season. And now it's everybody will literally play each other forever.
Every summer,
that's my problem. That's my problem. And not to cut you off, Crab, you hit it straight on the head. That is my problem because I felt like I've seen this same thing happen over and over and over. Like the type of matches that's on the card right now, even if you haven't watched AEW in like 3 or 4 months, it's like I just saw that the last time I turned it on, and it feels like it's nothing fresh and nothing new. And when you make that interleague comparison where it was something used to be, oh man, the Orioles could play the Nationals, even though they're right down the street. That might happen once every 4 years, or if they meet in the World Series. Now it happens every year where it's like, all right,
we'll play 4 times.
Yes,
2 in Baltimore, 2 here.
I'll just catch it when I catch it. Right. So it's like I'm not excited about anything anymore. And it's like if I watch it just because I like the wrestling, but it's nothing intriguing me for me to say I want more of this.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that kind of leads to the fact that so many different components are falling flat at the same time, and then they put on this pay-per-view 3 matches on the pre-show, 10 matches on the card. So, not surprising for an AEW event where they have 13 matches total on the entire day. Yeah. But when I look at the individual matches, nothing screams dream match.
Nothing.
The most interesting. I was gonna say the most interesting thing to me on the dang card is the women's matches. Like, and even those aren't anything I'm like, oh my God, I absolutely got to see it. But I'm like, okay, Mercedes against Stephanie Bakir. That's kind of interesting. Title for title between the TBS title and the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. And then you have like the soap opera deal they're doing with Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa. But it's like, okay.
That's actually the most complete story for me in that this is a thing that's been going on. There's history there. They told the story in a way that I'm interested in. I want to see what happens.
It's not just an interpromotional match for the sake of an interpromotional match.
Right. This is a legit story that's been going on that happens to be this, and I want to see what the conclusion is. This is the pay-per-view off match, and I appreciate it. But then the other stuff is just fun. I mean, you have Statlander and Momo Watanabe versus Willow and Tam Nakano. That's a Forbidden Door match. Mm-hmm. That's a match that we wouldn't normally get, and now that we have it, I didn't know I needed this. There are, of course, storyline implications between Statlander and Willow. Momo and Tam obviously know each other. Cool. But and I think we've said this before, is it time to pivot away from the Forbidden Door aspect of it? Because we're not necessarily seeing the forbidden part of it. Yeah. Also, compounded with the fact that it's really hard, and this is why I was really never interested in the Forbidden Door concept, is because I don't watch New Japan.
Right.
I don't particularly care about these people. I watch DDT more than New Japan. So there's that. But if they're going to dedicate the month late May into June into these matches with people that I really don't care about, why am I wasting time and money on the pay-per-view? And the ratings are kind of reflecting that.
Right. That's what I was going to ask you. That's what I was asking. Do you think the ratings drop over the last month? Do you think part of that is due to you get to this time of year and all of a sudden it's like, oh, hold up, we got to hit pause on all the stuff we're doing. It's Forbidden Door time. Everything's got to involve New Japan now.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the thing. Like I said, if NXT and AAA were to have some kind of joint event, it would be unprecedented the first year. It would be cool the second year. It would be the third year. And that's kind of where we are with the Forbidden Door. We're on the third year. The honeymoon phase is over. And if you're not invested, then I'll see you in July.
You don't get the World Cup every year or the Olympics.
Right. And even though those are crooked and rigged, it's still a spectacle because it happens every 4 years. I don't know. It seems, and I hate to be pessimistic on it because I'm sure that the individual matches will be fine. Yeah, I don't think we're not saying that don't watch this because the card is bad.
Correct. It's going to be some
card
good
looks solid in general for what it is. Jericho on another pay-per-view. Okay, but the card seems solid. It's just the implementation seems stale.
I agree, and that's for my favorite match tonight that I'm looking forward to is Orange Cassidy versus Zack Sabre Jr. because I just like those two wrestlers. But is the implementation, as you said, is it worth the presentation where it's okay, this is something to look forward to where you can't miss? Or is it just all right, let me just enjoy this good show because I know the wrestling is going to be good, but there's nothing to build on. I just want maybe because I have a personal investment. We all do because we were all there when AEW first opened their doors, Washington, D.C., something new, something fresh, and we saw the potential of what this company could be. We're not trying to say it's comparing to WWE. We're not trying to say you're going on a Wednesday or Friday night wars or whatnot, but just something that is a different style of professional wrestling with wrestlers that we know that could go to a solid product. And I think we're not hitting that potential that we saw some years back when that opening night had it for what it is for AEW.
Do you think that's because AEW starting to leverage more of the long-term storytelling versus individual work rate? Because at first it was, we don't necessarily know who these people are. They're not national stars for the most part. So you better put on a 5-star match.
That's a very interesting point. I don't even know how to answer that.
How many of these matches, 13 in total, are major storyline implication matches where we don't, the blow off is whatever, we don't know what it is, but it's still to the point of this match has to happen because it's the storyline versus, damn, the Forbidden Door is opened. This match could happen. And we've never seen it before. Or we haven't seen it, for the first time in a year. Or remember 3 years ago when we saw this only twice ever. This is the rubber match. There's a difference in presentation there. And that's where I think some of the spice is left out of Forbidden Door. Personally, disclaimer, I don't really care for long-term storylines. give me a good match, and I'll take that every single damn time over a promo of the same length. 5-minute match, or if it's a 5-minute promo, I'll take the match every single time, good or bad. But nowadays with AEW, with New Japan specifically, the thing that sold them were these 70-minute epics, that these matches that were told in 4 parts like a play. And a lot of the players aren't there for New Japan. A lot of the players are there for AEW, but they're just boggled down into these unending stories. And it's just like, oof, give it up already.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a good match, And then, AEW's roster, they're a bit bloated as well. And, I'm not sure where you cut the fat, but it doesn't seem to be, individually disparaged evenly. So it's just kind of like, this is fine, but And I think that's why we've been talking about NXT for so long recently. It's just not because they're doing anything differently or reinventing the wheel. It's just that they are actually meshing these things that they didn't do before, because they're, kind of building these stars and building these characters, putting them in compelling, position, having the additional surprise. Oh, that's that person from TNA. This is that person from the main roster. What the hell is this person doing in the NXT zone? They did reinvent themselves with the brand change, NXT 2.0 and all of that good stuff. Top to bottom, colorful. Booker T and Vic on the commentary. They've done something different. They've aesthetically changed. And for AEW, that's not necessarily the case. And the things that they told us were big. Saraya was supposed to be big. No. Monet falling flat. Toni Storm is not the Toni Storm that they brought there. Who was the Toni Storm that left SmackDown after being pied in the face. She's a totally different character.
She found it.
Yeah, so she had, but that took her a year. I mean, like she went through 4 different characters before that happened. So it's Willow Nightingale. We were begging them to bring her on full time, and now it's to the point of finally she's gotten there. So it's been a lot slower of progression. But we know that they have the talent and we know that they have the resources, but we're just not seeing it come together. So, and then there's the price. After all that we just said, is this pay-per-view worth $50?
We come back to this every darn
month. It will come every single time. That will be a question every single time we talk about an AEW pay-per-view.
Yeah. $50 for this? Nope.
Yeah,
nope.
$50 to see it once, because at least on Peacock, it's there for you.
Yeah.
So $50 to see it once.
Yeah, nope, not for me. But
right.
Once again, we're not saying to stay away from it. You might be entertained if you drop your 50 and see the wrestling matches.
I'm saying, go to a movie theater, pay $25 for it, see it on the big screen. They're doing that this weekend.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at it and I'm like, I'm more interested in seeing next week what is going to happen coming out of this, and this is in the rear view, as opposed to the actual show. Because after this, now it's like, okay, now we're on the road to Wembley, and that's what I'm more curious about at this point. It's like this just feels like, okay, we gotta get through this show, and then like the real stuff will start happening.
Honestly, now that just to bring it back full circle, I'm not saying I wouldn't mind seeing Swerve versus Dijak down the road. I mean,
one day.
Just putting that out there, just speaking that into existence. I mean, we got time to kill before the end of August,
right?
Because that's when Wembley is, and then of course they have the next week is the other big pay-per-view 7 days later, which is, or I think they pushed it back actually.
They pushed it back. Yeah, they pushed it back.
Yeah. So it's so you have a pay-per-view, then you have another pay-per-view 2 weeks later. So that makes sense. But yeah, so you say Renee versus Stephanie Vicaire is, your thing.
I'm curious. Yeah.
Toni Storm versus Mina Shirakawa is the match that I, am looking forward to the most. What about you, Sellers?
The Zack Sabre Jr. versus Orange Cassidy, just because I have personal affiliations and likings for both of those wrestlers. I just want to see how it goes. But simple match. I don't expect it to be like a 5-star, but I'm just interested to see how it is.
Honestly, and I don't mind Zack Sabre Jr. I think definitely Orange Cassidy is, not that it has to matter, but Orange Cassidy is a first ballot AEW Hall of Famer, and I would actually
100%.
say 100%. Give him the ring now.
Yep.
Like, you don't even have to build the building. Just give him the ring or the sash or whatever.
100%.
Give it to him now. Long-term theory, not relevant to the pay-per-view per se. Will Orange Cassidy ever be AEW champion?
No, I don't think so.
I could. God, if it was,
and I hate to say that as a fan. I just don't
here's what's killing me right now. Because I'm like, in a different company where I could see like a very short reign, I could see it where he'd get like a short little run with it. But that isn't what AEW's been about.
Nope.
AEW is about these like long reigns. They've only been ever derailed by like injuries if they've been short. So I don't know. I think it'd have to change the way AEW is doing things. But I could see him having it, but not for a long time. Not like that run he had with the international title where he like made it into the Workhorse Championship.
Because of that belt is why I asked the question. Mm-hmm. Because it's not that he can't do it with his character. And if you would have asked me, if you would have asked me 4 years ago, based on what his character was then, as the sloth, barely, audible, person that's just going to come out there and do the gimmick, then that's not possible. His character doesn't allow that. But obviously, that's not the character that it was 2019. Mm-hmm. I think it is possible Orange Cassidy could be AEW champion. I'm not sure when that would happen, but I can definitely see it being the surprise that may, kind of like put a spark in AEW again, because he's somebody that shouldn't have it, because his character literally doesn't allow him to have it. It's somebody that could deserve it because we know that he's the workhorse champion, as he has been with the Intercontinental champion, whatever the hell it is, International Championship.
Right.
But if he's champion, then that means that Max Friedman is not, Danielson is not, Strickland loses, Adam Page, Kenny, all of these, Ospreay, all of these guys that should be champion would not be, and they would all be chasing Orange Cassidy, which is a perplexing thing to think about, considering the hierarchy in AEW. I think he's better than a mid-card champion, and I think he deserves a run before he retires, because he's also pushing 40.
Let me put this spin on it, too. And once again, I'm an Orange Cassidy fan. I don't think AEW would let a Miz-type person or character win their top title, but if he was in WWE, he would. If that makes sense. I compare Miz and Orange Cassidy, the same type wrestlers on their promotion. WWE said, okay, we'll let you have the championship belt, Miz. I don't think AEW will with Orange Cassidy.
And the problem to that is that there was a time in AEW where guys like Orange Cassidy, guys like Darby, the guys that wouldn't be champion in WWE on the main roster would be champion in AEW.
Correct.
So to your point, it's interesting how times have changed, but it's also why I think that to get AEW back to a place where the unexpected happened, because right now the main event is Swerve versus Will Ospreay.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. I mean, that's a good match. It's going to be a hell of a match to close the show. Both of them are fantastic wrestlers, but that's a very main event type of match. That's not unexpected. That's not surprising. That's the match that
you're going to get.
You know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
But that would be interesting to see, Orange Cassidy as vie for the AEW championship.
Yeah.
He is pushing 40. It could happen because he absolutely is a fucking workhorse. But and I don't think it happens in WWE at all, or in NXT at all. So I kind of just need them to get back to that 2020 sensibility where the unexpected can happen, where we're not going to follow this typical blueprint where if you're 6'6" and jacked, then you're definitely going to run our heavyweight division.
Yep.
So just a thought, just a thought, an interesting thought as to where AEW is now versus how they started.
Yep.
There we go. All right, let's switch gears. We'll be talking about that show, I'm sure, next week. We'll be coming off the aftermath of it and seeing where we're going next. Let's go back to Monday night, because one of our big topics last week was the new Wyatt 6. And where was this going to go? What was this going to be? And this Monday, we got like our first little taste of here's where this is going. And I know for me, at least, and I know for Cells, because we talked about this a little bit in the chat this week, This was not at all what I was expecting, but
Nope.
I am intrigued now. It definitely got my attention. So we had a spooky segment with the former Nikki Cross showing up, and she delivered a videotape
VHS.
to a VHS cassette to Michael Cole. Before that, let's clarify real quick. Also, we have confirmation Chad Gable is with us. He is still alive. He is not dead, as we were wondering last week. Chad Gable is still here. So, but a VHS tape was delivered, and they played it later in the show. And
They had
what
a
it
cassette
was,
tape upstairs?
Sure did.
they were like, we had to find a VHS machine. I think Michael Cole called it. So it took them a while to track one down, but they found one. They played the tape on the show, and it was a tape of Taylor Rotunda talking to Uncle Howdy, like an interview type segment where they were sitting across from each other. And what was really interesting about it was they immediately went into the idea of that, they acknowledge Bray's death. That's part of the deal. And Uncle Howdy started asking him questions, and they straight up went into stuff like, how do you feel about his passing? How do you feel about exploiting his death? And it was just like, oh, we're getting into some heavy stuff here,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we're bringing some
carpet is gone.
reality into this right out of the gate.
Yep.
So it was a very interesting back and forth. And I guess Celis, you were caught off guard like this. Like I was,
Yep.
what were you thinking watching this? Because I was like, this is not at all what I was thinking they were going to go into, and it's got my attention.
So for the past couple of weeks, because I knew or I had a feeling that the Y6 was going to debut last week, and then this week I wanted to see what was going to happen next. And I know we talked about it last week. Okay, after you build from what happened on your debut, what do you move forward? And we was talking about, okay, make sure you keep things like spooky, make sure you don't have any type promos where you don't need to talk in front of the crowds and stuff like that. So I was like, what are they going to do? But in thinking about it, as I was watching it live, I was like, this is the best way you had to do it. Now, you still put Nikki Cross out there. Okay, so you see her character, okay, a little bit creepy and everything, but you didn't have anybody else. But this is the way to reinvent Taylor, Bo Dallas, whatever you want to call him, or what his character would be as the leader of this group. And going the realism route of, okay, my brother died. How do you feel? And having your gimmick like literally go back and forth and talk to you about that. I was like, this is fantastic. So you're going to see, in a way, the characterization that Taylor had that he never really got a chance to release post his NXT days. You got an opportunity now to reinvent this character, but do it in a way that's still honoring your family at the same time, but doing it in your own way. And at not one time did I thought, oh man, he's ripping Bray, he's taking Bray's character. I was like, he is inventing his own person. And I'm wondering, if Bray was still alive when Uncle Howdy was coming out after that LA night match that they had that time, I'm wondering, is this what they were going to build both of them together, where you had Bray Wyatt's individualization and now you have Taylor's individualization to see how they are as separate characters, but as a part of one unit. So I thought this was perfect, fantastic. Yes, they caught me off guard, but I thought this was creative booking for him to see where you're going to build this character. Once again, don't have any titles with him. Build him individually to see what he is as a character, and I loved every second of it.
Crab, did you see any of this, or you got any thoughts on it?
So I actually have it up right now, and because I didn't see it Monday.
Yeah.
Now it's odd because the thing that I said last week is just keep them spooky and mysterious. I don't need promos.
Right.
Just have them come in there and be creepy as all hell, Resident Evil 7 style.
Yep.
And let the mystique get them over.
Yep.
And what do? Interview.
Yes.
So now, with that said, obviously this is your traditional interview. It's not like they got Jim Ross sitting down with them or anybody like that. I do think that it is interesting. Obviously, they're related, but how much Taylor looks like Wendell.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the lighting, the makeup, the hair, the shadows are purposely done to evoke that imagery. I have it up on the other half of my monitor right now, and I definitely see a younger, slimmer, Wyndham Rotunda looking at me through this damn VHS cassette. And I think that's, to your point, Celis, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to, close one door and open another. And through that, memory, and maybe it is cathartic for the family to actually go through this, put this out there. I mean, these, wrestlers, you got to be a, 7 shades of crazy to be a wrestler in the first place, but you definitely got to be, on the enigmatic side to put yourself out there like that. And I think that's what the fans resonate with also. They're taking real events.
Yep.
They're not necessarily spinning them into an untruth, but they are using that as the framework for whatever the hell this is going forward. So in that regard, job well done. It is what I need it to be. Super weird, but also mysterious.
Mm-hmm.
However, as a fan of Bo Dallas in NXT, he's obviously still got it. A good wrestler, not a great wrestler, but a hell of a character wrestler. Bo Dallas is the best John Cena, impersonator when he was doing that gimmick, because
Believe.
I did. And now that I see him not trying to be Bray, I see him through this carrying on the passing the flame, passing on the torch. I think he's doing a better job of being the son of a wrestler, so to speak, than most sons of wrestlers turn out to be. This is like, if you are a Michael McGillicuddy,
oh geez,
you wish you would have had this kind of footprint, this kind of blueprint rather, beforehand, because I think this is how you do it. You pay homage in your own way, which makes it special.
Absolutely.
I'm almost wondering, thinking about this now, how they did this. If maybe the idea is going to be, we started this week with Taylor. Next week, another tape gets delivered, and it's the same deal, but it's Uncle Howdy talking to Eric Rowan. And you kind of acknowledge everyone's prior gimmick and that they're changing into this new thing. Then the week after, you do Dexter Loomis and what he's becoming, and just spread that out over the next month.
You got something, Will.
To introduce everyone's new persona as a kind of way of flesh this thing out. I don't know. Just an idea just popped into my head. It was like,
I would love that.
All the rest of the
100%, because
I would love that.
Because Rowan acknowledging Brody and Bray is going to hit a lot of people really hard.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's the way you do this. A new tape each week for the next month. This is all you do. You just introduce the characters one by one with Uncle Howdy.
Slow burn.
Interviewing them.
And you talk about slow burn of storytelling. That is a slow burn right there. And that would be phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Yeah. Just we'll see. I have no idea if that's happening. Just popped in my head.
Book it, Will. I'm with you on that.
We'll see.
But
we are very.
The question is,
go.
When do they start? When do they start wrestling? And and at what point do they move on from, from that? Like, we get it. We get this the table that they're trying to set.
Yeah.
But this is the intersection of sports and entertainment. So when does the sports come in?
SummerSlam. And I think doing it the way that Will did, I think SummerSlam is a great debut, and it's a better way of doing what they did with Fandango when they couldn't say his name. So I'm not going to wrestle until you say my name correctly, but do it in a way of a slow burn with this group.
The timing would sync up.
And let SummerSlam be it.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be an interesting month ahead. We're very close to our hour here. We're right quick. I want to throw it out because he debuted last week. We've seen him forever. Jacob Fatu has finally shown up. Part of the Bloodline. Laid Cody out. Got a strong. I don't know if you could have made him look any better in his damn debut, but I'm excited. Any thoughts you want to throw in before we get to our hour here on Jacob Fatu's arrival in WWE?
Strong arrival, but he needs to be careful because I thought he was a little bit unsafe in some of his maneuvers where a little bit of hitch going one way or another, he could have got some people hurt. Just from my perspective of knowing how you take the bumps, how you do those moves. Strong. And I think he was so excited to be there, not taking that away. But be careful if you're going to be that type of power guy in that group. You have to be safe in your maneuvers.
He slimmed down a little bit. He was out there moving. He was moving out there. But Oh,
Yeah, 100%. He's exactly what they need. Couldn't have come sooner. Glad he's there. And this is going to be really interesting, especially from Survivor Series, because we definitely see that being him coming into and leading the team in November.
oh yeah, they're definitely building squads here,
Yeah,
especially once we get
100%.
the other half coming back. Once Roman and the Usos and everything, it's they're building war games right before our eyes, piece by piece.
Yep.
So there we go. But yeah, I'm guessing they'll be on SmackDown this week. We'll have more to talk about on that soon enough because the Bloodline 2.0 is only getting bigger and stronger. So.
Yeah, SmackDown's at the Garden this week.
Oh yes, that tells you something big has to happen. It's the damn Garden. So
let me ask this quick question.
4th of July weekend.
Yeah.
When does Roman come back?
I think what you were just saying earlier. I think SummerSlam.
Okay.
I think they close SummerSlam with something happening that makes it clear. I don't think he has a match there, but I think he returns there.
And then Survivor Series ends this with the Bloodline when you had that match with Roman side versus
maybe.
Rock.
I think once he comes back, then they gotta start they gotta get him and the Usos together. Yep. So I think it's matter how quick all that's gonna happen. So I don't know, man. Part of me is like, well, damn, if you do all that, then what do you have left after that for then you're going into Rumble and Mania season.
Yep.
So, and we know that this story ain't going to burn fast. This is a slow burning
This
story.
is a 3-year story.
Yeah. So we're still at the point just now of building up Bloodline 2.0. That's what this summary right now is about, is Bloodline 2.0 running wild. So, all right. We're at our hour. Folks, we will not be here next Thursday, but we are normally here Thursday nights at 8 p.m. I think we're going to run next Wednesday night, but we will be posting on social media how we're going to handle that. But normally Thursday nights, 8 p.m., your Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast is live here streaming, live on X, we're live on YouTube, live on Twitch, anywhere we can get it live, we put it live on there, and then the feed remains on YouTube after that. So if you want the audio, it is there the next day. Actually, well, no, the same night, because we will have that up later tonight as soon as we're done. And the video file will also be up on YouTube too. So lots of ways to watch and join in with the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. Folks, on social media, it's at Big Gold Belt across the board. Wherever you're looking to find stuff, we'll post on there what's going to be up next week. Wednesday, I think, is going to be next week's show, is the plan, because 4th of July, Thursday night, ain't going to happen. That's for sure.
Nope.
Other than that, of course, BigGoldBelt.com is the website. Wrestling, movies, comics, and more. All kinds of stuff going on this summer. And 2 Chains will keep you up to date on all these movie releases and stuff. And we'll be talking wrestling every darn week. So tons of stuff happening as we head into end of June, beginning of July next week. Time is a-flying. So thanks for being with us here, folks. Stay cool. Get ready for the 4th of July. If you're opening the Forbidden Door this weekend, enjoy. We'll be back to talk about that next week, and we will see you then.
All I really need